different ways to share the gospel.
How many crazy harebrained ideas has Ray had over the years? From you miming down in Santa Monica 3rd Street Promenade,
seriously,
trapped in a box, to the spinning of the wheel, to doing sleight of hand magic.
You in a straitjacket?
Levitating straitjackets.
If somebody's like, man, okay, I am introverted. I can never imagine myself standing on a box, or maybe I would do it faithfully one time, but myself or my wife, we would just never stand on the box. It's just so painstaking, hard, and difficult.
What's key in evangelism is to be who God has made you. First of all, God delights in that. You'll be the freest when you do that, and it'll resonate with people. If there's anything people can sniff from a mile away, it's someone who's trying to be someone that they're not. If you don't feel an inclination to open air preach, don't do it. I don't believe everyone really is called to open air preach. Would I love it if everybody did? Of course. But we all are called to communicate the gospel.
So important. I don't want people to miss it. Psalm 139 says that you were intricately woven from your mother's womb. It also goes on to say that God knows every hair on your head. He has ordained every moment of your life. So I've heard a pastor summarize Psalm 139 in this way: you were made for the day, and the day was made for you. All of your interests, all of your insecurities, all of your highs, all of your lows, all of your personality dispositions, all of your quirks, every single bit of it, it is not an accident. You were designed by God to be an instrument in his hands. Accept that. Believe in who God created you uniquely to be, and then make yourself available for his work.
Yeah.
First of all, declarational evangelism, the type of evangelism that deals with going out and intentionally sharing the gospel. You're going to declare the gospel. This would have under it one-on-one or one-to-one, open air, door-to-door gospel tracts and outreaches of various forms, right? This is where you are going on the offensive and you're going to declare the gospel with intentionality.
I'm so glad you're bringing this up, because how many Christians do we know have never intentionally gone out? For example, Friday night at 6 p.m., I am going out strategically and specifically to share the gospel. No, well, what we do, listen, if somebody brings up the message to me, I will bring it back to them. Or I'm borrowing my mother's car. She's not a Christian. I'm going to change all the radio preset buttons to a radio station as if it's going to be caught instead of taught. No, this intentionality of I'm going to go out for the next 30 minutes and I'm going to hand out gospel tracts, having that in mind. And I learned from you, Easy, in the past, like you can go out and you could have a goal for the night. And that goal for the night can differ. You can say, I'm going to hand out 10 gospel tracts.
One of the key things we did, when you take a team out, you always have to have enough people there who will train the people that are coming out. And sometimes you don't have enough, but you can take 3 or 4 with one person and they can rotate through. And we tell them, you don't have to do anything. Just come with us and watch.
We are so one accord with this, right? So if you find yourself, if you're one of those guys that says, look, I have no problem going up to someone. I have no problem. I'm bold. I'm an extrovert. I can do this, but I'm having a hard time finding somebody that'll go along with me. And I'm kind of done and tired of just going out by myself. I don't know where you're at, but you're hitting it exactly, right there on the head. And that is encourage somebody to come along with you, to just be a fly on the wall, is what we call it. Right? You don't need to say a word. You don't need to interject. Just be next to me and I will walk you through this. You can watch me do it and we'll walk away without you ever saying anything. No pressure.
Right.
But you're exactly right. What happens?
Over time. And that's what happened with my own kids, right? I've talked about it, right? I would take them with me. And then one day I remember my dad goes, Dad, I want to do that. And then it was like, can I do it on my own? Then I want to take people with me. And they started leading, other people.
I was just about to say the best evangelism team is your family.
What would you encourage someone who wants to open air preach? How do they get their feet wet? How can they get equipped for that?
You always have to have an out, first of all. And that out is people begin to think, while I'm open air preaching, what if they ask me a question I don't have an answer for? Or what if my brain freezes? Well, Ray has taught us when you're in the midst of that position and you don't know what to do, fall back on John 3:16, which means just quote John 3:16 and then look at the crowd and say, you know what? I just want to thank you for listening to me. And this is just all I wanted to share. And then step down. The way Ray got me to open air preach, he was going back and forth and he was waiting for somebody to ask a question that he knew I had an answer for. It's a bit of a softball question. How can you trust the Bible and not the Bhagavad Gita, right? Just something that he knew that you're studying. Then he said, that's a good question. My friend Mark would like to answer that question. I would just get up there and just answer the question. And then he would look over and he would do the form of the cross saying, now get to the gospel, share the gospel. And I'd share the gospel. And then he would come around the side and would come next to me. I know, he's ready to preach. What do you do? Listen, start small. Remember, one-on-one is great, but if you can reach 2 people, Isn't that better? What about 3 people? So begin to learn, and this is what I would encourage you to do. Learn to do some exercises to preach from your diaphragm.
Oh man, I mess this up all the time. You saw it happen to me. I got off and I looked at, I think it was Brian, and I'm like, I think I just threw out my voice. And Brian goes, as you were speaking, Mark looked at me and he goes, he just threw out his voice. You knew. That's why I said, oh, I can do that. But let me say also, I think oftentimes we think open air preaching, it's one specific thing. There are ways, again, to make it your own.
I'm glad you're bringing this up.
Some people love entering in with trivia, going through the good person test. I love to try to tell a story that pertains to the gospel. And so there are so many different ways in which you can open air preach, draw in a crowd, and do it faithfully.
Door to door. I did door to door for years and
selling vacuums.
In fact, at my church, at the men's breakfast this past Saturday, someone showed up because someone from our church went to their door. The guy had just prayed. He was asking God to direct him into a church. They knock on his door, and he came to men's breakfast. They have men introduce themselves. He stood up and shared the story, and he's been coming to the church now. And take someone with you. You can invite them to your church. You'll be surprised how many people are lonely, man.
Yeah.
They're just sitting in their homes. Their only contact with the outside world, for the most part, is social media, and that's very empty. Giving out tracts is such a great way. You build up confidence to where you do it with authority. It's not like, hey, yes, free. But hey, did you get one of these? Hey, check this out. And it's amazing how people respond to authority, or confidence rather.
I love dropping tracts in cases of beer.
Yeah.
I go into stores or in closed pockets or newspaper racks, or, you just go and you sit inside of a hospital, inside of a waiting room. You sit down, just put a tract down and then just leave it there. Or you go to a restaurant, put them inside of menus. Yeah. They're so easy to hand out.
Confrontational evangelism. So this can it can flow into those other areas, but it has at its core confrontation and usually apologetics. This is often when you're going to be interacting with people of like different faiths and you're going to equip yourself to do it. Sometimes maybe you're going to go to the local mosque and hang out on a Friday and interact with people there. We have friends, that do that. So Mark, apologetics is your forte. How do people begin to prepare for confrontational evangelism?
Somebody asks you a question, you don't have an answer for it. That's your next question to study out. And it really is simple. There are basically 10 questions that are being asked. And the top question that is asked is the problem of evil. If God is so loving, all powerful, why is there suffering in the world? Why do the innocent suffer? If you begin to start off with not knowing just what you believe, but why you believe what you believe. Paul Little wrote a couple books, Know What You Believe and Why You Believe What You Believe. Why do you use the Word of God? Because the Word of God is living and powerful. So start there. That is our ultimate source of authority. I think that presuppositional apologetics is very powerful because it always puts you on the offense in the midst of it. I guess go to ChatGPT and you can say, what are the top questions, objections that I'm going to get out on the street? And then answer them in a very bite-sized way.
Mark, I wish there was some sort of just a bunch of videos that were like 2 to 3 minutes long of experts just answering those kind of questions.
Good.
Wouldn't that be brilliant?
We could call it like Living Waters Equip.
Yeah.
And we could put it on
livingwaters.tv.
And there they would become equipped and inspired from the top theologians and pastors.
Wow.
We should do that.
Wait a minute.
Nah,
you know what? Never mind.
Too much work.
Nah.
Yeah, and that's actually a good natural commercial for Living Waters TV. Check it out, friends. That's what we do on there. Living Waters Equipped does that, and you can get equipped to do that.
You don't need to be an expert. If you have a general understanding and a general preparation for how to answer those questions, you have done more work than 99% of the people in this world. And you can have that kind of confidence because most people, they don't have an epistemology. What that means is they haven't done the research as to understand what they believe and why they believe it. That's what the word epistemology means. Most people just take whatever pop culture idea that they comes flying through their head, whatever they read on Reddit, whatever their friend posted on Instagram, and they just run with that one-liner. It's not very well thought out. Yeah. And so for you to do just a little bit of work, to be a little bit prepared for those 10 to 12 questions, you will have the confidence that you need to get into those kind of conversations. And side note, there is nothing wrong with being in the middle of a conversation and someone asking something and you go, you know what? I'm not really sure. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's totally okay.
Online evangelism is huge too within the realm of declarational, I would say, and it's good to hit on, but through social media.
That's right. You go to my Facebook page, the first thing you're going to see is a gospel presentation presentation that is pinned to the top. So I talk to people go, well, I'm not on social media. Why not?
Yeah.
What if somebody by chance wants to Google your name, somebody you went to school with, they come across, you never have to go back. But now you're presenting the gospel in perpetuity long after you're gone because nobody can take it down. Take advantage of that.
A few weeks ago, I was going somewhere and I shared the gospel with my driver, and the guy was like, what? I may have talked about it, I don't remember, but he was like, are you serious? He's like, I had a soldier who was a pastor a couple days ago. He shared the same thing with me. My sister is a Christian. She's been praying for me and telling me I need to go to church. I need to become a Christian. Anyway, I give him my card. He reaches out to me. I take him to dinner, talk to him more. I give him a bunch of resources, reaches out again. And then I just took him to church service this Sunday.
No way.
Brought his whole family. Dude, it was just
so cool.
Our aim is to be able then turn it into real life and interaction. And that ties into our last thing, and that's relational evangelism. And I think it's important here to give clarification, because people have often heard us caution them about relational evangelism, because that's often sort of a scapegoat, or, I do relational evangelism. I try to build relationships with people and stuff. And Ray's talked about, you can build a relationship in 30 seconds. Hey, how you doing? What's your name? And then you're friends, right? There is that place for relational evangelism, right, Mark? Neighbors, friends,
what does that look
family
like,
members.
Right? That is the day-to-day rubbing of elbows with your coworkers, with your friends, with your neighbors, right? So if you go to the grocery store and you pick up some stuff to make some brownies, why not make a few extra brownies and bring them to the neighbor across the street? You're Christmas shopping and you know that your neighbor doesn't have a lot of money for whatever reason. You know what? Why not pick up a couple toys for their kids and anonymously maybe put them on the doorstep, or put a gospel tract, attach it to that, right? Let your light so shine among men that they may see your good works and bring glory to your Father in heaven.
Looking for doors where you could get in there and talk to them on certain issues.
Absolutely. I think the gospel lived out is so important. I often quote this book. The book is called How the Early Church Was a Family. The point that he makes in that book is that people would evangelize, they would proclaim the gospel to their neighbors, but then they wouldn't leave them out into the neighborhood and on the square and corner and just, okay, there's the gospel, see ya. They would not hold back discipleship. They would engage in discipleship with them. And this idea applied to our lives today is your friend, your neighbor, your family member who you've proclaimed the gospel to. Now let them see the way that has interacted with every aspect of your life. Let them see you pray before your meal. Let them see you do devotionals with your kids and pray over them and put them away. Like what, especially today with how much is on the internet about the hypocrisy of certain so-called celebrity pastors that are, cheating on their wives and flying Learjet airplanes. You have an opportunity to show people how you speak tenderly to your wife, how you love and lead your children, and how the gospel has penetrated every aspect of your life.
I know we are running out of time here, but this is such a valuable lesson that you can do. How do I share the gospel with my family? I found this to be very, very successful. Have a gathering, you have a holiday, there's a get together at your house, and you need to host. So what do? Invite a friend who's going to share the gospel over to your house as well, right? Because our family gathering isn't just blood relatives.
It's good.
Right.
My friends are blood relatives because of the blood of Christ.
Right.
So invite, for example, Oscar over to the house. Oscar's there hanging out. He's got no skin in the game. Goes up to grandma and just says, hey, grandma, how you been? And then he makes that natural transition into the gospel, and you are free to host. What happens next time? Next time there's a get together, Oscar comes up and says, hey, have you given any thought to the things that I shared last time? And then when Oscar has a gathering at his house, who's Oscar inviting? You to go over to the house because he's hosting at his house, and you're free to just walk around and to talk to people, love on people, answer any questions that may be. Have that be reciprocal, but it is a great way to share the gospel with your family.
For the record, I'm there if you're making meat.
Carnivore.
I've talked about, using holidays as a segue to share the gospel with your neighbors. Like we've done that in neighborhoods we've lived in. At Christmas, we've gone around, especially when we were newer in the neighborhood. We wrote a letter introducing ourselves, tactfully brought in the gospel, tying it in with Christmas, Christ, right? It's natural. Gospel of John, candy cane wrapped up, and you just know, hey, we're here. We just want to introduce ourselves to you. Here you go. And so many other things that you can do creatively.
This video is part of the Living Waters podcast. To watch full episodes and explore more content that equips you in your faith, visit livingwaters.tv. You can listen to the full episode titled on the screen for free on all major podcast platforms.